Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to my channel. I'm Daniel, and today we're going to go over some quick advice on how to up your lifestyle photography game. And that bit of advice is this. When doing a lifestyle photo shoot, you want to concentrate on getting a variety of shots that are 1. Wide, 2. Medium, 3. Tight, and 4. Detailed. So I got a buddy here in Arizona. His name is Todd South, and he owns Southernxpress Precision Rifles, and he makes custom rifles. Now he's not one of those guys that just orders a bunch of parts and assembles an AR-15 for you. This guy actually machines the barrels from scratch and makes a lot of the other components himself. And I had the opportunity to do a lifestyle photo shoot in his shop, and I figured it'd be a great opportunity for us to go over my creative process on doing lifestyle shoots and the biggest bit of advice I have for those wanting to do so. Alright, so here we are walking into Mr. Todd South's shop. So when walking into a lifestyle photo shoot, the first thing you want to do is set the scene. You want to get that wide angle shot. Now you don't necessarily need an ultra wide lens, but what you want to do is get something that's wide enough that where you can get back and get the whole room or the whole work area or workspace and get enough of all that in frame that really sets the scene, and the viewer of these photos can see, okay, I think I have an idea of what we got going down here and the vibe we're going for just from that first photo. Set the scene. You want to get nice and wide. Now, before we move forward, I want to touch on the fact that I shot this entire shoot on my 24 to 70 millimeter lens. The reason I did that is I wanted to show that you can accomplish all these shots without having to spend a bunch of money and get all these different prime lenses. You don't need to get an ultra wide 15 to 35 and then a 35 prime, a 50 prime, or 85 prime. You don't have to do all that. You can accomplish this, and you can create a really nice lifestyle photo shoot with even a kit lens if you just focus on getting that wide shot to set the scene. You get that medium shot that gets back a little bit. We're going to go over those photos, and then you get your tight shot that shows depth of field, and then you want to get your detail shot. You can do all this with the DSLR and a kit lens. All right, so let's get into this shoot. All right, here we are. So again, we're walking into Todd's shop, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the scene. I'm going to get back and get a wide angle shot. Well, what's crazy is that this is the first shot of the entire shoot, and it's one of my favorite shots of the entire shoot. It just really just captures Todd in his element. You can see all the different textures and items that he's got going on the shelves and the corners of his shop in here. It's really organized chaos, and I love it. And again, this is my first shot of this entire shoot, and it's one of my favorite. So when you're getting these initial shots that set the scene, don't be afraid to move around and get multiple shots to set the scene. For example, look at the second shot here. I moved over, I think 5 or 6 feet to the left, and there's another piece of equipment there on the left-hand side that I managed to get into frame, and it's out of focus, and there's Todd still in perfect focus as the subject of the shoot. But I'm starting to create a 3-dimensional image on a 2-dimensional medium. And that's where good photographers really start to set themselves apart from the rest, especially lifestyle photographers, because when it's lifestyle, you're really trying to recreate something that's real life, and the person looking at the photos can picture themselves right there in the scene. And so by creating a 3-dimensional product or result on a 2-dimensional medium, such as photography, you accomplish that. And it really makes a big difference in your photos. Moving on. And once again, we moved to the other side of his shop and got another wide angle to set the scene. All right, so after we get the wide shots that set the scene, now we're going to start coming in a little tighter. These are where you get your medium shot. Now with these medium shots, we're starting to create, this 3-dimensional environment. Todd is out of focus, and then the machinery that he's working with and the metal that he's machining is perfectly in focus. We're starting to come in a little bit, but we're still a little wide. We're still setting the scene a little bit. Now I'm going to move around and get to a different angle for another medium shot. After getting some medium shots, I'm going to start to hone in here, start getting close, and really get up and personal with Todd. So this was my first tight shot of the day. You can see the tools and machinery that Todd's working with here in perfect focus there in the center. And then in the foreground, we have Todd, who's out of focus, as well as the background. This catch basin for this machine is out of focus as well. So we have 3 objects in frame, and we're creating that 3-dimensional environment in a 2-dimensional medium. That's the point of the tight shots. After the tight shots, we're going to start to come in here, and in all honesty, you're really just going to try to get as close to these objects as your camera possibly can while still remaining in focus. But you want to still keep composition in mind. Here's my first detailed shot. This is of the barrel being machined. You can see the object on the left is completely out of focus, the foreground's out of focus, the background's out of focus, but the beginning of this barrel being machined here is perfectly in focus. That's a detailed shot. Now I'll go a little overboard and I'll get a lot of detailed shots. I usually do more than I really need to. My second detailed shot was this measuring tool. You can see Todd's hands, see the texture. These are working hands. These are craftsman hands. My hands used to look like that back when I was a commercial landscaper, but the detailed shots are all about the textures and really, really just bringing this to life and bringing life to even the small inanimate objects in your shoe. Again, with the detailed shots, you don't want to just jump in there and get as close to something as you possibly can. Keep in mind composition. Get something in the foreground out of focus. You can see that nut and bolt there in the very center bottom of the frame. You have Todd's wrist there is out of focus on the right, and then the background behind this barrel that is being machined, but then this other measuring tool perfectly in focus. That's what the detailed shots are all about. You want to get to these inanimate objects, even animate objects, but you really want to show that detail and the textures, but just don't negate composition. Create a three-dimensional environment on a two-dimensional medium. As well, before Todd even started machining this metal, I had my shot planned. And this was the raw barrel before he started machining it to start threading it. I went ahead and got some detailed shots before the shoot even began. And then we have this shot that is almost a hybrid of a detailed and a tight shot as well. It's okay to even get these shots that may be a tight shot, maybe a detailed shot, a little bit of an identity crisis for that photo itself. But that really doesn't matter as long as you're focusing on getting those 4 key shots. Okay, so after we got the detailed shots of the barrel being machined, next up was the drill press. Again, took a step back. Okay, I'm gonna start setting the scene. So this is a wide shot, but it's almost a hybrid as well, because even though I'm back, I'm at a wider focal length, I'm setting the scene once again. Look in the foreground on the left side. There's this piece of equipment there that's out of focus, and even on the right side, there's another piece of equipment that's out of focus. So even though the shot is wide and we're starting to set the scene here for this next phase in building this rifle, I'm still creating that three-dimensional environment. I'm wide, I'm setting the scene, and it's okay that there's objects here in the corners and on the sides that are out of focus, because it's composition. It's all right. When I'm back in this position, I zoomed in just a little bit more. I maybe got to 35 millimeter rather than 24 millimeter. I would consider this a hybrid of a medium shot and a wide shot. Again, move to the other side of the shop. Got another nice wide shot of Todd here before he got started on using this tool. I'm setting the scene again. So after I set the scene now with this new piece of equipment that Todd's using for the next fit in this process, I'm going to get my medium shot. See how Todd is perfectly in focus, and then this drill press and that gun stock is out of focus somewhat. It's a medium shot. We're not crazy tight yet. Now another medium shot from another angle. Don't be afraid to move around. Don't get all your shots from the same angle. Don't get your wide shot, your medium shot, your tight shot, and your detailed shot all from the same angle. Move around, create that variety. Okay, after I got the medium shots, now I move in here. Let's get the tight shot. So after the medium shot, I got in here at a different angle, and now I'm gonna get my tight shot of Todd drilling through this gun stock. Maybe probably my second favorite picture of this entire shoot. See how Todd's face is in perfect focus, but then you have the gun stock and the drill press completely out of focus, and then the background behind Todd is completely out of focus. This is a great example of creating a three-dimensional environment on a two-dimensional medium. I know you're probably getting sick of hearing that, but I'm telling you, if you think about that, especially when you're getting the tight shots and even the detailed shots, if you focus on that, you're gonna set yourself apart from other lifestyle photographers. Come around the backside, get a shot over Todd's shoulder for another tight shot. This may even be a hybrid. Maybe some may even call this a detail because of how much in focus that drill press and that drill bit is. Now this is an interesting example. This is a tight shot, but I even took it from the same angle as the first tight shot, but I changed what's in focus. I changed the key subject for this photo. For example, in this photo, it's the drill press and the drill bit that are in focus. Then in the foreground, you can see the gun stock is out of focus there at the tip. And then Todd is now out of focus. Todd was the original subject of the shoot, but he, in this shot in particular, is now the background. And the subject is the drill press itself. And then the foreground is the gun stock. Switch it up a bit. Don't be scared to put your original subject or the person there out of focus and get what they're working on in focus. And then finally, wrap up the drill press is the detailed shot. This is undoubtedly a detailed shot. Got in there nice and tight to the drill bit. Even the bit of the stock is there in focus because it's the same distance from the lens, obviously. But this is the detailed shot to wrap up that workstation. Now for the final workstation at Todd's shop is where he mounts the barrel to the stock and then he puts on the glass or the scope. So I, again, took a step back and I set the scene for this workstation. You can even see Todd's camera there on his workbench because we were talking camera gear when I was there because he's a photographer himself as well. But I love seeing all of his tags there on the bottom left corner and all this hardware, all these little parts that he custom makes for clients and customers. But check this out. So I got this shot, right? Took a step back, got this at 24 millimeters, I believe. But I moved to the opposite side of his shop again. This is another one of my favorite shots of this shoot. You can see this is somebody that's really just taking in his craft and taking in the product that he's building. Love this shot. Love how the light goes off his beard, his hat, his whole torso, his hand down there and near his pocket. And again, this was a wide shot. We're setting the scene. But if you look on the left there's another piece of equipment that is semi out of focus. That is framing him in. There's that big Bluetooth speaker, that outrageously large Bluetooth speaker on the right-hand side. Those two items are framing him in. The way that those lights on the ceiling and the light above his workstation are kind of going at towards the same point in angle and geometry. I love this shot. I feel like this was one of my favorite shots as well, this whole shoot. Again, after getting the wide shot to set the scene, now we're in here for our medium shot. You can see Todd here, he's putting together the bolt mechanism for this rifle. You still have a lot of the workbench there in frame. Todd's perfectly in focus. His hands and that bolt that he's working on for that rifle are perfectly in focus. But again, so after the wide shot, we're starting to come in. It's just getting a little tighter, but we're still not. It's not tight. This is a medium shot. Now here is our tight shot for this workstation. Look at his hands. Look at the texture and the detail in Todd's hands. You can see that these are working hands. The cracks in the skin, the grease in the fingernails. Like, these are working hands, and they're in perfect focus. The bolt that he's working on to put inside the rifle is in perfect focus. Todd's shoulders out of focus as the foreground. The rifle itself is out of focus in the background. One of my favorite shots as well. Again, I took like a few hundred photos, so you're seeing like the dozen that I chose to use for this video. But I took a lot more than this. You should fill up memory cards. Okay, I went around to the other side of his other shoulder to get another tight shot. The rifle is now in focus with that bolt mechanism. So after this tight shot, I'm gonna zoom in there and get really close. I want to get this bolt sliding into the rifle. This is my favorite detailed shot of the entire shoot. Look at the detail there in the bolt. Look at the spiral there, that metal, that craftsmanship that went into making that. Look at the hand. Look at Todd's hand in frame. Everything's so crisp and so sharp. Look at the cracks in his skin and the dirt and oil and grease in the fingernails. Like, these are working hands. I love it. Then I took another step back as Todd put the scope on the rifle. So I'd say this is a tight shot. And think of the dials there on the scope are in perfect focus, and then his hand there in the foreground holding the screwdrivers out of focus, and then the rifles that are leaning against the back of the workbench out of focus. So again, another example. 3-dimensional environment on a 2-dimensional medium. I'm gonna beat that like a dead horse, but I'm really passionate about it. That's how you really set yourself apart from other lifestyle photographers. You want the viewer or the photos to feel like they're there. And you do that by creating that depth of field, get things close to the lens, get things far from the lens, and then have your center subject in focus. It's fundamentals, really. I would call the shot another hybrid. This is a detailed slash tight shot. Got the muzzle brake there at the end of the barrel in perfect focus, and then everything else is out of focus. So again, like we talked about on the drill press machinery, Todd was out of focus, but we got the inanimate object in focus. We kind of switched up a little bit just to make the shoot more interesting. And then wrap it up. He's finalizing putting that scope on the rifle. Get in there, I got the glass there in focus right there where the IP says on this scope. That's the only thing in focus in this shot. Not one of my favorite detailed shots of the shoot, but I felt like it was worth noting because it kind of followed suit with this workstation. So that's it for me, guys. I mean, I took several hundred pictures at this shoot. Before this video, we went over maybe about a dozen of them. And I just really wanted to hone in the fact that you can really set yourself apart from other lifestyle photographers just by following that simple rule. Keep in mind, you want to set the scene with a wide angle shot. You want to start getting there a little closer with the medium shot. And then you want to get in there and really start creating that three-dimensional environment with your tight shots. Remember, get the foreground out of focus, get your subject in focus, then get the background out of focus. And then finally, get in there nice and tight. Get as close as you possibly can before your lens just trips out and can no longer focus. And get those detailed shots, but don't forget composition. And again, I want to emphasize, I did this entire shoot with a 24-70 lens, okay? You don't have to go overboard. You don't have to buy an ultra wide lens to get that wide shot to set the scene. And then you don't need to get a 35 mil, a nifty 50 prime, 85 mil prime. We're in for those detailed shots, getting a 100 mil macro. I mean, yes, they're great tools, but they're not absolutely necessary. What I'm getting at, it doesn't really matter as much as honing in these skills and keeping these rules in mind, okay? This was all done with one lens, this entire shoot. So that's it for me, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you got something out of it and you learned something. And if you did, please subscribe. I really appreciate it. Have a good one, guys. We'll talk to you later. See ya.